Ladies and Germans, how you all doing? This is Conor.
This is Chang, low, low, low.
And folks, we're taking a break from monthly tournament coverage to bring you the singles tournament coverage, or the single division tournament coverage. Either way, maybe they're single, I don't know. But we're on Chechern today. Who do we have, sir?
Right hand side in the blue, we have Boda playing as the 11th SS Pentagon Deer with a Maverick income. Right hand side in the red, we have Chang playing as the 2nd Hungarian with a balanced income.
I have to say, Chang Kai Shrek might be the best pun name I've seen in a bit of time. That is honestly phenomenal.
Pretty fantastic, I have to say.
Well, even more so, the fact that he's got the Hungarians too, which means we're going to see tons and tons of Nimrods, I hope, which I feel like the Hungarians took, and they were like, you know what? We can make this that much better, and just make craziness. I'm super excited to see them here.
Yeah, I'll be able to put down a whole lot of fire, but we're seeing pretty aggressive deployments down south, which is something you don't see too often here. Okay, no, I don't know, they're kind of settling up, but it's a decent amount of troops here. You're already seeing reinforcements immediately from Boda.
I think down south, I mean, let's not confuse an aggressive deployment, because if you look at the front line is just still always a ton of those little rinky-dink kind of recon flame troopers, which is really what they are.
Yeah. A recon fire force.
Certainly to be the case. Now, early ME-210 from the Hungarians does take out a field gun, but we're not seeing the normal kind of mad dash across the plateau that we see from one division or another on Chechern. Usually we see a lot more heavy vehicle play early on to try to really take the northern end of those lungs. Much more mild in this case.
Yeah, just stuck on Panzer IV action here. Boda will be taking the victory in the northern hill, which is usually a very good gain, and really for not much bloodshed. We are seeing some motorized love sets being brought on in. Pretty decent at CQC, so we'll see how they fare out.
Well, and unlike what we said over here on Tuesday, I mean, we are going to see the SS apparently decided that, AT stuff is really somebody else's problem. But the Hungarians, not really of that same camp. I kind of have to love the fact that they all have the Raketenwerto, or I'm sure I'm butchering it somehow. But I love seeing the bazooka knockoff. I think it's a great thing to be having a lot of this equipment. Down south, we were seeing the potential for a little bit of aggression, and indeed I think the Hungarians are kind of getting out of their initial positions and moving a little bit further to the west as that next layer of troops comes in. I'm not sure if I really want to give them the benefit of the doubt on this, though.
Yeah, this feels very much, but both sides are doing their small little maneuvers to get prepared for the big battle at hand, because there's been quite a build-up of forces now down south, and those motorized Lovesses should do a pretty decent job if they do go on the offensive here. There's not a whole lot of anti-tank to stop him, they have anti-tank equipped as well, and as we know, Hungarian infantry, big, beefy, and hard to kill.
It's on the board. Yeah. Now, we have seen ME-210 a couple times already. You actually are seeing the recon planes, the entire wing of recon planes, with the rinky-dink napalm, which actually is a lot of utility that you get along with the recon itself. So, for 100 points, surprising amount of utility coming out here.
Yeah, those goes really can go and blow people up, and especially early on in A phase. Even if you only kill like one infantry unit with that napalm bomb, it's still cost effective from a point-to-point value.
But even though the German version of the Night Witches are coming to the front, the mighty Nimrod will fight them back. Which is, well, more than enough as we see two Nimrods kind of chasing away those savage biplanes. Oof. And apparently throwing a couple napalm cocktails out the side is enough to almost kill an officer. So the Hungarians, at least in that particular moment, not quite as beefy as we were led to expect, but regardless, being pushed away.
Yes. And down south, we have seen the initial engagement, and Chang got caught a little bit on the open. His infantry has got ravished quite a bit, as once again, Germans in buildings with machine guns are not exactly positions you want to be pushing.
here is where the moment of bringing the Nimrod into that 40 mic just a little bit further south. You can get some really tight lines of fire
Oh, yeah.
on these troops. And it's more or less a pretty safe place to be. Yeah, you have the occasional Panzerfaust, that's true, but lines of your troops in the meantime should be more than enough to keep them at arm's length.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Boda's getting a very nice plus run. Really, or just due to the fact he's got that northern hill with not much bloodshed, and I think Chang is starting to refocus and bringing in reinforcements up north to try and deal with that. But no, yeah, it's been a pretty tame, like, A phase so far. I mean, Boda's not playing super aggressive considering he's Maverick. Hopefully in B phase, well, I guess he has the same income, but by B phase, he's going to need to try to get that +2 to stay competitive.
This is certainly true. Did look like one of the biplanes did go down, I believe.
Believe so.
Northern side, yep. ME210 getting chased away, and the Stroke actually gets bailed out, so I don't know if that was actually for any kind of cost. It doesn't look like it. Which, I mean, Chang, that's what he's got to kind of do here. He needs to just kind of outlast, adapt, and overcome. So that he's doing exactly what he needs to currently.
Yeah, once you can get to C phase, you can just spam out all those Panzer IVs and hopefully just get that dub. And he also has all of those Nimrods coming to B phase, so that should be pretty fun to see, because, yeah, they're just bloody effective, time and time again.
They really are, and it's kind of weird to think that. Again, I don't know why they called it a Nimrod. I feel like that day there was some dude who apparently was having a much more majestic name, and he was just feeling spiteful.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be outdone though in the center, we are going to see the 75, no, the 9738M. So again, this is one of those like 1897 guns, I feel like.
Yeah, it's odd caliber, but it works.
It certainly does, taking out that kind of like minor pack track over there in the meantime. Infantry continues to kind of butt heads against each other down south, but an ME210 being brought in, he might get pushed away. It's not going to be the most accurate bombing run for sure. Okay, that felt like that was a bit of an early fallback, but okay, that's fine.
Yeah, both sides have actually invested quite a decent amount of anti-air, which I think really goes to show just how, defensive both sides are planning their attacks right now. Planning their defenses, I should say. But still, I mean, Boda's got a decent enough defense to hold at least one of the flags down south, which is good enough here. And that, what's it called, the Boita Zis gun, that's got a good line of sight down the road, just also means the Tourney has a good line of sight on him.
That is certainly true. I would say that for the most part, that the Tourney, since it's got that lighter caliber, and frankly, the Zis gun takes forever to aim and fire. I feel like the rate of fire on those is very, very meager by comparison. Chang, I think, really had the upper hand on that one. Also want to make a quick call out. The 80 mil anti-air that's up top, he has lofted a fair few rounds already, but again, surprisingly effective in what it can do, and it's being a bit of a pest, shall we say.
Yeah, he's in a pretty good position. He's just, he has enough range to shoot any tank, which does dare to crash on over that hill, and also the Panther 4 being up close. As well, Chang's done a pretty good job of getting a foothold in the far northern part of that northern hill. So if he can clear that out, you set up defenses on the hill, you shoot stuff coming up the valley, and that's pretty much GG up north.
Certainly could be, but that other Zis gun on the north slope of the northern hill, kind of encouraging some play, trying to push back the 80 mil. The indirect fire being what it is, it could potentially cause, a hassle.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised those Loveses hasn't aggressed up a bit further yet to try and deal with it. I guess we've also got the Puma acting in defense. I really don't see many Pumas anymore. It's a bit of a shame.
So we actually did see the Lovis trying to be a little more aggressive there, but unfortunately that MG34 Pigren just to the southwest was enough to keep them at arm's length. So, and checking it down south again, looks like things are starting to heat up just a little bit, and I mean that without any kind of puns from that flame trooper who's already kind of engaging more Pigrens. But I'm thinking that 1311 has a chance to be even more, let's say, valuable for our Hungarian player before too much longer. The question is, will it come at the expense of another part of the theater? Because you're seeing troops now in the open, taking from a 45 mils, from machine guns, not able to kind of really build momentum, but rather just kind of throwing themselves against a brick wall and slowly, ever so slowly, breaking down that brick wall by the sheer weight of their bodies.
Yeah, Boda really needs to get some of his cheaper armored vehicles like he's trying to use into his town fight, because they can provide pretty damn good fire support, because he's just losing a lot of his low vesses to, yeah, just anti-tank guns and machine gun positions, because Boda just has a very good defense. He has everything kind of huddled around, or maybe even just some use of smoke here from Chang so he can get some of his CQC troops in a CQC position.
This is very true. This is very true. The kind of funny thing about this is that technically Pigrins should not be really that good in town fights, and I don't think, I would argue, that 120 meters is still not really, oh my gosh, the MGs can really kind of kick in and do massive, massive murder. We're seeing the occasional Pioneer Squad, heck, we've seen the occasional Flammenwerfer, but this is all done on the back of the rank and file Pigrin, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah, it's just due to how line of sights work in some towns, because a lot of the line of sight in this town is pretty vertical down the road. You got just a lot of good vertical fields of fire, where if you're kind of attacking it from more of a horizontal angle, it's a little bit better for you to get infantry up and down. It's just, towns in SC2 are weird compared to SC44 and heck even Wargame, because they can be deceivingly quite open. Thank you,
Certainly.
low residential architecture of communist bloc countries.
Yeah, I think part of that too is the forced civil engineering performed by both sides. So I think that there certainly is, I think, kind of one hand blowing up the other in this case too. Now, up north, we are going to see Chang is going to try to establish, let's call it an OP, throwing a squad or two of infantry backed up by a couple of P4s inside that northern piece right by the T intersection. Problem with this is going to be a couple of folds. One is that infantry doesn't actually control that much territory. Two is, when it comes right down to it, a single vehicle is going to cause enough hassle that, well, again, you're not going to get a lot of utility.
Yeah, and those Panzer IVs are doing decent enough for holding down that valley at least. But, that seems to be pretty good. I do like that low vest in that farm position. We're seeing kind of a good flank with the Panzer IIIs as well up north. It's just, once again, Chang's infantry is getting a little bit blown out before they can get into the important positions, because Panzer Grenadiers are pretty good at machine guns.
They certainly are. They certainly are. But the P3 recons, I think, should be more than enough to kind of really kind of push back those fields of fire. Again, like their comrades over here in the Viking division, Nordland said, you know what, ATs are, pansies, and kind of neglects to do anything about the Panzers, and I think they're starting to pay the price already.
Yeah, because this is going to be a very effective flank at 231. Probably a little bit confused why he's being attacked from a German tank, but he's just going to have to make do. And probably make do just being blown up.
No, I'm reminded of a story. I think I heard at one point about Prokhorovka. That one of the early kind of SS tankers on the line got passed by a column of T-34s, and they didn't stop to engage him at all. Indeed, there were some Panzers even in that same kind of approach. It ended up being the point that he just started firing at them, just taking loss after making loss after loss after loss on top of them, because they either didn't know or didn't care that he was literally among them.
He's playing Among Us.
Yeah, it boggles the mind.
Mm-hmm.
It boggles the mind. Me-210s, these guys have been very, very good. Wow, two kills
Wow.
right there. That broke the back of the resistance up from the northern side here. We see 13-11. It should be 14-10 before too much longer. And really, this last part depends on how these P3s match up with these Stoke 3s.
Yeah, this has been a very effective flank of his Panzer IIIs. He's completely isolated at hill. Only one Panzer Grenadier left, which should go down quite easily. It's just about whether he can get those reinforcements onto the hill, defend it, preferably get some anti-tank guns on there. He doesn't have a whole lot with his Hungarian Panzer division. So, Yeah, it's going to come down to whether he can hold out against those stacks. Which, at long range with P3s, most likely not.
No, unfortunately not. Already one of their numbers have been halved because that Puma raced on forward. So being very, very good in Johnny on the spot there. Down south, while it should technically be a giant meat grinder, it isn't. Both players just content to kind of hang out, play, slow play it, because frankly, for Chang, the longer this match goes, the better it is for him. And Boda, I think Boda's just kind of getting caught up in some of the other micro and other parts of the map.
Yeah, Boda, he really needs to try to regain a bit of better momentum here, because losing that northern side is a pretty big blow. I mean, it's only a +1, but as you see, Maverick C-phase, not good. He needs to try to get something to happen. I think maybe a center push across the lungs might work pretty well. I mean, down south, it's just a grind, and really at grind, his best bet, he can just get out one flag in the crossroad, and by the other flag which he has under control. And that's just not going to be worth it, I think, from a point investment and time perspective.
Most likely not. Now, Trent's going to come down here. I mean, we are going to see probably some losses inflicted for sure. P3, I'm surprised is still alive, as it engages and is getting engaged by multiple sources of firepower here. Anti-air is going down, and that actually might be a bigger loss than losing either of these Stugs, which is still a possibility, though statistically is not the greatest loss if it is.
Yeah, those two tens have just been able to operate like really well. And if those anti-air guns aren't up, they're just going to keep blowing stuff up. And he doesn't want his stuff blown up. I've heard this.
I've heard breaking your toys is generally considered a bad thing, or having other people break your toys. I mean, especially when they don't pay for them. Meat Grinder has commenced down south. We are seeing these mad assaults by Motorrad Lovetzes and the Arkasoks coming in with the Gaboltaledums, trying to go and loft rounds at 250/9s, and just this is mad lad stuff. Like, you don't do this.
Yeah, goddamn, those autocannons really proven just how deadly they are. And once again, Chang is just kind of getting caught out in the open here. He's taking some rather heavy casualties. He is starting to inflict some of his own now, so he is being able to soften up at northern attack here.
He certainly will, and while he's going to bomb his own troops in a second, he takes out the Storm Pioneer as well. And taking out, I would argue, is probably even better still. And there we go, okay. The Nimrods blowing up that church, maybe not the holiest of moments here, though it does make the building rather holy. But that's the kind of infantry support that these things can and should be doing.
Mm-hmm. And he really needs them right now, because he doesn't have a whole lot left to support. They're going to be the front line. Now, once again, they do have that, what's it called, muzzle-loaded like rocket launcher, which they can use at this range to blow up that Stug.
They absolutely can. Slight damage, though. We're actually going to maybe see one of these in action as we speak. No, he's more concerned about the airplanes. All right, fine. Do your primary, intention. Makes sense.
Stug's just going to blow him up. But very effective push there so far from Boda. I'm actually surprised he's been able to break us so effectively, so quickly. The problem is, does he overinvest down south? Because pushing any further, apart from just trying to set up a good defensive line to prevent the enemy from coming in, can really, well, I've seen many players get tunnel vision in that sort of fight, ignore the rest of the map, and then they don't have any flags to their name.
Here's the other thing too. There's still 81mm mortars that are kind of causing some hellacious firepower, and 6 new squads on the front lines. 6 squads against a rather sorely abused Storm Pioneer. One's got an MG26 P-Grens and a P-Gren squad. So it's not going to be, completely without cost, but it's still going to be another loss here. I think this flag might even flip back in a different direction.
Yeah, it's still a pretty effective attack. It's all going to come down to whether these armored vehicles can catch his infantry out in the open. Because he's managed to pick off at least half or a decent chunk of Boda's force off down south, or the other force is not really doing anything to support this defense. Oh, there's the Ardo. I forgot they have the Ardo.
So the Ardo's made a couple of runs already, but unfortunately it doesn't hasn't paid for itself, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's always funny
And
hearing the jet engine. You're just not used to it in this game.
that's true. That's true. It's just kind of that nice kind of high-pitched
Yeah.
whine they have to worry about.
Like, wait, am I playing War Game again?
Did I leave War Thunder up? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now, we do have a company of Terran tanks moving on in, which is a call. I don't really know what kind of call it is. I was just maybe
Close
stay
range
with the
call?
fact that yeah, I was gonna say an interesting one.
They're pretty
Not
good.
they are, but they have to be, well concentrated, and I
No,
don't.
I think it is. I think it is good. Yeah, they're good at its fight con. Like close range, they can deal with the light armored vehicles and just provide cheap infantry fire support.
I just keep watching Faust after Faust kind of happening here. Those are Faustian deals you don't want to be taking. And I don't know. Yeah, that's fair. I understand. I completely value your opinion. You're more than
You
likely
have your
more
own.
accurate. Yeah. I probably phrased this a little bit differently before the conlang came, but they're like belly buttons. We all have opinions. Toldies in the meantime, this to me is a slightly better kind of opportunity here, not because they are just like that much more deadly, but because they have recon optics and therefore are better in my mind.
Yeah.
I feel like if you can't see, you can't kill, and if I can't kill, all I can do is die, and that's... It really only works if I'm playing Seafood. So.
Now we're into that all-important sea phase here for Chang. Double the point advantage. He can really just start spamming out all the tanks, and then like, oh, he's even got a Tiger on the field being brought in. Nimrod does go down. He's probably maybe investing a little bit too much into tanks down south. I think he needs a little bit more infantry as he keeps getting all his infantry guys killed. But maybe the tanks will be able to just clutch it. Maybe not. We'll see.
True. I mean, the Pack 40 is down here, and technically that Tiger, or Tigris, if you prefer, isn't... It doesn't... it's not as scary as it could or should be. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Terrans have been aggressive, and despite the fact that you are right, they are relatively good over here in the towns, we're also going to watch as one after one, they get picked off by close-range Fausts, including this dude right here, who's literally right next to one, puts the Faust next to the tank and blows it up, to the point that I feel like that guy really should be taking suppression damage for being so close to his own explosion.
Yeah, it's just kind of a little bit of an overinvestment in the tanks. He needs those infantry to push on up and actually capture some sections. He does have the mortars also going in quite heavily, but now this is just a war of attrition. He still has that 13-11, and it's just both sides pretty much being even Stevens in the actual points game. This is really Chang's match to lose. And even then, like, Boda doesn't have great territory or really great momentum. He's managed to get a lot of foothold back up north, but there's still just a whole lot of armoured vehicles here which Chang has in a nice blob, and we're seeing those thugs aren't wanting any of that beef because they're not going over that hill.
No, they are not. But what's happening is down south we did see a Stuka Safus.
Ah, Safus.
I haven't seen one of those in a very long time. Didn't really see what it accomplished a whole lot. It was maybe some minor material here and there. He's aligning on another concentration of Lovasis.
Mm-hmm.
But while he's doing that, there's 4 squads of Lovases and Arkasoks getting ready to move on to that western lung. And I would say, truly, that they have the firepower to clear it out. They really, really do. Even the Schwindensug there, and the Aufklärer, and the Pioneer, and all of that jazz. Heck, even taking some of that light vehicle fire, I would say those 4 squads right there really could still be aggressive enough to take everything and a pack of chips.
Yeah, Chang has the resources to start opening up other fronts with that 2-to-1 income advantage. He might as well just try to put some pressure in the lung. Even if it does fail, it's going to force Boda to put reinforcements in the lung rather than trying to continue down south. Because Boda's been trading pretty effectively here. Like, we got a line of more Lovases, but they're kind of just going down one by one as Boda's just kind of set up a good defensive position through and through, and he's out trading Chang here. Just once again, the problem down south is can't really follow up his out trading. And it's just going to get worse for him eventually because numbers, attrition game, unless he can get some phenomenal kills and some phenomenal territory gains.
Well, we are going to see in the meantime the other Tiger being brought in like the south central area, just to the east of the 80 mil. And with 4 squads of infantry, they're not going to take anything important just yet, but they're going to get close. And like you said, I think this is going to be the moment where Boda kind of says, wait a moment, I got to kind of realign here, and I don't know if he's got the resources to do it.
Yeah, it's going to probably be a little bit too stressed out. There's some of the low officers getting caught out in the open by the lone machine gunner. Actually getting some pretty damn good hits. In emergency Ardo, but the Nimrod does not care. Yeah, the Ardo doesn't care too much either. He gets his bombs off, or bomb. One bomb. And it is a bomb.
It is a bomb. It's a bomb like G.I. Joe 2 was a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you kill Channing Tatum early on, you're either watching Magic Mike or you're watching G.I. Joe 2.
Yeah.
So I've heard. I mean. But we are seeing in the meantime that while that infantry push in the center was not particularly effective, at least the occasional nod of, maybe I put another squad of infantry up top. And for right now, that represents a greater investment than you really have to worry about. But one thing that you kind of talked about before and saying that the Hungarians really to be doing less vehicles, so they kind of consider the fact that sea phase for him, he has barely twice as many infantry as he does P4s, and I know that sounds like a very weird statistic to bring up, but when you can bring in 15 P4s in sea phase, I don't know. I feel like there is a bit of a punch that you want to throw, and you probably should kind of lean into it a bit.
Yeah, that's a pretty decent amount of tanks here. And he still has a decent amount of low officers. It's just about gaining a good force of infantry in the south. And then also just having something to follow up. Neither side actually has off-map, and time and again we see off-map be such a vital tool down south. He just needs to soften up some of Boda's defenses here, let the artillery do the speaking, and then pushing through with his tanks and infantry. And Nimrods, he's starting to build up. What I'm saying is, he just needs to hold, build up forces, soften the enemy, and then attack, rather than doing these small, little pushes. Yo, good kill on the Stug.
Well, I was going to say, the northern side, you might have missed it, but there had been a lot more in there. There were 2 Stugs, as well as that Puma, and I think Boda was like, wait a second, do I really have to be worried about this? And it turned out, yes, you very much did.
Oof.
For the cost of a single Terran, that northern flank is looking a little bit more barren of vehicles than they really should, much to the point that he's bringing a Panic Panzerschreck in on the reverse slope, just so that way, just maybe, he might be able to get a cheeky kill here or there.
Yeah, because we're past that 25-minute mark, and that's really when things start to hurt quite a bit for Maverick divisions. Now, if you start losing tanks, they're going to be pretty irreplaceable somewhat soon. And we just still seen Chang's just got the bloody arms factory churning out more Hungarian infantry. 'Cause I'm sure Hungarian infantry are made in a factory, like these Stukas rockets are.
I think that's true. I might be incorrect. I think my production, vehicles might be a little bit kind of wonky here.
Mm-hmm.
But what else is kind of funny is you see that P-Gren that's marked without bullets, the one that's 3, he's moving, southwest right now. Yeah, he's got no more Panzerfaust because he's used 4 of them and killed 4 vehicles. So he's dead now, but he's paid for himself a couple of times over. So well done, sir.
Yeah.
That's off to you.
Yeah, Boda's been very good in the defense. He just hasn't been able to mount a successful, decisive offense, which is what you need to be doing with a Maverick income division.
Even more so, you need to be a successful attack early enough, let's say, that your economy can still, sit there with you. 3 more squads being brought into the western lung, and with the remnants of that first attack, they're going to brush aside the scout team. That's going to be pretty easy. And the MG is gone as well, so one by one again, the defenders are getting killed, and nothing's replacing them. Now, if I could make one bit of commentary about this, take some of the other infantry been sitting over there since the first 5 minutes of the game and move them west.
Yeah, he needs a little bit of extra fire support. Even just buying like a couple Tehran tanks or getting one of those Nimrod jobs. He just needs a little bit more substance with his push.
And this happens, I think, a decent amount of time, is that I think we, as players, fixate on the notion of, no, this is my attack force, I need to bring in new troops right here, and this is going to be a thing I'm going to be utilizing, as opposed to realizing that, Corn doesn't care where the blood comes from as long as it flows.
Mm-hmm.
And you might as well send the dudes that have been there since the first couple of minutes, because at least at that point you're getting a points usage out of them. There's a point utility more than them holding territory. It's also them aggressing territory. It's splitting the enemy fire. It's doing whatever you need it to do. It's still better to have a nice little bit of, well, the weight of numbers.
Yeah, he just needs a little bit of extra forces. He's picking off Boda one by one with his infantry troops, but it's going to slow him down a bit. That's going to give Boda time to bring in reinforcements, but at the same time, Boda just doesn't really have the points for reinforcements. We're not seeing any. He's just buying more stuff down. Yeah, more stuff just going down south. But he's not. He's fallen to the tunnel vision, it feels like.
And I think what we're seeing right now here, too, is that if you are going to go and take a position, taking the lung is not a bad one. If nothing else, the lung position allows you to take a place that's not easily reinforced.
Mm-hmm.
Which, when it comes right down to it, that's a very, very serious problem. My units come north, my units come south, but that means I'm spending a lot of extra time in transit and not a lot of time fighting. So, I can understand it. I'm not thrilled necessarily about it, but I can understand it. Yes, sir?
And pretty much now, with the rest lung position almost falling, it's pretty easy for Chang to hold, because reinforcements aren't really going to be coming in from the north, because the northern force can just shut that down, so he can just bottleneck all of Boda's forces from the south and just defend that one zone. Oh, Ardo coming in once again. The infantry is a bit more spread out this time, so we see how it goes.
Probably should kill at least one with this, I'd imagine. There we go.
Yeah.
Nice to know that the Ardo has also watched Oppenheimer. You know, in the meantime, we are seeing a Stug aggressing here to the northern side because, hey, the P4 is dead. It must be safe for us to attack.
Mm-hmm.
And he probably will be able to do decently well, especially against the Turan. But now that Nimrod has come forward screaming, "Don't pick on my brother," and probably should be able to get the kill here. Shots up. No.
Oh. Oh, but the two 210s should be able to. Oh, not even. But kills the Panzergren.
No, hold on. The Hungarian Air Force, the Hungarian Luftwaffe, has been, you know, far and away so much better than the Nordland in this particular case. I've actually been really surprised by how meager the Nordland air presence has been.
Yeah, those 210s have definitely gotten value, and they're good bombers. They're pretty cheap, and they're fast, and they got a good payload, which is all you need.
Exactly. Leves is over here. So we're going to see... So there's been a lot of artillery fire trying to engage these tanks, freak them out, and they're doing pretty well. Unfortunately for them, it allows the infantry to kind of scamper run forwards and pick apart some of these P-Grens. And like you said, every single P-Gren that's getting killed isn't getting replaced. Not the same way as the Lovis goes down, and now we have 3 more squads of Lovises coming up, like there's some sort of, like, you know, Hungarian Hydra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, once again, the rate of attrition is gonna get a bit too hard for Boda to deal with now at this point. This is so many bloody Hungarians down south. Even if he does trade in effectively for Chang, that is, it doesn't matter. These German troops are getting a bit irreplaceable.
They certainly are. They certainly are. In the meantime, another anti-tank position goes down because I'll say all 3 mortars, but one of the mortars has just actually gone down. Still, those 81 millimeters have been surprisingly effective here, and while we are seeing the occasional counter battery hither and thither from Boda, I don't know there's enough ammunition left to actually deal with everything here.
Yeah, we're seeing pretty heavy investments of the 7 run and Stug 4 up north just to really defend that area. And honestly, Chang almost did a decent enough force strategy attack, and he has a lot of Nimrods now looking at it. He has just a lot of Nimrods along the map, which is pretty much also, you know, shut down Boda's air force. Those Ardos are not going to be flying over anytime soon.
No, they are not. And the Ardo, it does get enough time to get its bomb off, but, you know, an effective bomb, well, therein lies the rub, as the Bard might say. Down south, we are seeing there is one anti-air position that's keeping this flag a little more contentious. But even as that front squad gets turned into just so much, you know, pasta sauce, the next 2 squads coming in should be enough to either force this Flak 36 into quiescence or to kill it. Either way, occurs fine. Another Stukasafus is going to go after the lung position. Again, we're going to see bits and pieces where we'll see Chang take a position or two. He's going to lose some troops and get forced back. He's going to get killed, lose some troops, get forced and come back again. This is the Tide, though. The Hungarians are just playing the Crimson Tide game. They don't need to actually kill. They just need to kind of wear away defense after defense after defense. Down south, it was a German town. It was just covered in blue, and now we have what? We have a handful of panicked, freaked out, and out-of-supply troops. And the Hungarians, where there had been to the thin red line before, well, it's just more and more and more.
Yeah, Stuka's troops are firing up north. I was expecting a southern barrage. He's trying to deal with that lung position. Actually makes sense. He doesn't really know what yet, but he's going to be getting some pretty mediocre hits. Enough to force some pin downs, but really be able to follow on through with an infantry attack. No.
Well, he's just unfortunate. I think he was ready to do so, and then said, "Wait a second, they're spread out enough. I don't know what's there. Let me take it a little bit slower." It's gonna have enough time. Yeah, he surrenders, which I think actually was probably the best call he could have made under the circumstances.
Yeah, and it's a KD ratio. That's actually pretty close. Only like a 500 or so difference.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised by that. I actually expected it to be more devastating than what it was. Let's check out some of these kills, though. ME210s, here we go. 5 kills from Briscoe. 5 kills. Nimrod. Actually, Nimrod's... Let's just count the Nimrod kills here as well. Between them, they have 3 air kills, 2 ground kills. I could have sworn I'd seen another Nimrod actually start to really engage a lot of infantry. Yeah, 4 air kills. Nimrod's the unsung hero, I think, of this match.
Yeah,
truly.
They've... right good multi-purpose, blowing up the aircraft and blowing up the things with Trent aircraft.
Now, not to be outdone, though, the Ardo on the other side does get himself at least 5 ground kills, picks on all the PBIs. Dinkel, Puma, let's see, 1, 2, 3, and a 4th ground kill there. But where is that god known as Hausler? No, I'm sorry, he got 3 kills with this 4 Panzerfausts. Still,
not bad.
As good as a Pack 40. So, Goebbels over there should really be, shocked at his performance today. No propaganda's on him, on the Führer's good side.
The 105 doing decent. Yeah, honestly, some pretty good standouts here from Boda. He played defensive. Maybe if he was playing, and he really did play it like a general or balanced income, he needed that momentum early on, and he just could not do it.
Yes, indeed. That's the kind of the hassle here, is that it could have been so close, and he should have been right there, but unfortunately, it just was not enough to bring in.
Yep.
But hey, at the end of the game, it was a solid match. Thanks so much to both players. Well done to one. Better luck next time to the other. Any final thoughts there, sir?
Nope.
And folks, in that case, then you know what that means for us. It's time for us to say goodbye. Until next time, I'm Con Ulrich.
I'm Rangru. Take it easy.